Maren,
Hi,
how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for carving out some time while you're on tour. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I mean, you have accomplished so much. A Grammy win, 17 nominations, 5 ACMs, 5 CMAs, the Billboard Music Awards, 3 of those, a new children's book, and new EP last fall, a tour. I mean, you do not stop. You are a force of nature.
Yeah, I just can't be idle for very long. I start to implode.
That is super apparent. When was it that you started singing? Do you remember, was there a definitive moment that you started singing, or you kind of thought this might be a thing?
Yeah, I mean, I always liked singing. I don't think I was ever aware of any sort of talent until maybe 10 or so. I just liked singing karaoke.
Yeah.
On my parents' karaoke machine. So that's kind of where it started. And then I picked up a guitar when I was 12, and that's where the songwriting obsession started. And that kind of hasn't slowed down.
Yeah. I mean, you moved to Nashville about a decade ago. Do you remember back then, was it your intent at that time to become a country artist?
No, I moved to Nashville just to write songs for other artists. I didn't really have any passion to be on stage. But I think after a few years of writing songs and just being sort of a working songwriter on Music Row, and, having a few artists record songs of mine, I really missed being the vocal on the song, especially the songs I was writing. So I think it was really about getting some confidence, and it took a few years to sort of find my songwriting voice and, what I wanted to say to the world. So now I feel I'm glad that I took the plunge.
Had you released any music independently before you made that move, or no?
I did. So when I was living in Texas growing up, as a teenager, I was touring and playing bars, and so I had 3 independent release projects. But it's I look back on it fondly, but it's also the music I was writing when I was a literal teenager, right. So it's kind of cringe.
Well, you're on this fantastic tour now. You're going to be here in Raleigh on August 10th playing the Ritz, and if I'm reading this right, you are letting the fans pick your set list or choose your songs?
Yeah, so a few months ago when we announced this tour, RSVP Redo, we were kind of replicating a tour we were supposed to do in 2020 that got canceled because of COVID. And on this one, we were like, my new album that I'm working on currently isn't quite ready, but I want to be able to tour this summer because it's been 2 years.
Right.
And I don't know, we were like, how could we make this fun for all of us and keep it kind of fresh every night? And I think the answer was do a different set list every show. And so fans kind of sent in their ideal set list, and we took all of that and to rehearsals, and then every night we sort of have a request portion of the show where we don't know what we're going to play until I pick it out of an envelope. But yeah, it's kind of fun. It's every show is different. Every venue, we kind of have a mix of theaters and amphitheaters on this tour. So it doesn't feel like we're doing the same thing every night.
That sounds like such a risk to not know what you're going to play when you're already out there on stage.
Yeah, I mean, it is, but it's a fun one. I think I am a perfectionist, and I feel like I give myself a lot of crippling anxiety for shows. Maybe some of it's just residual stage fright, or I don't know, just everything having to be perfect. Yeah. But I feel like I've loosened up in the last few years, and I don't know, it's just kind of nice to not have everything be so robotic.
Yeah, it sort of sounds like it might be freeing for you to do it this way.
It is, yeah, and it's way more laid back, and we've obviously rehearsed so many songs just to have in our back pocket in case the request comes up. But we're also just enjoying ourselves on stage even more because it just feels actually communal, and it's not here's this set that we've played 1,000 times and there's no room for error. And I feel like each crowd at each city gets a different show.
Yeah. That's great. August 10th at the Ritz, everybody. If you're going to get tickets, do so now. Let's pivot to the book. I'm excited about this. Addieant Goes on an Adventure. You wrote a children's book, and I imagine that many parents think they can do this, right? But you actually did it. And I'm wondering how hard was that? Because I think it's probably harder than it looks to put together a children's book.
Yeah, I mean, it was, okay, so I wrote it with my best friend, and she had all these characters in her head because she has this beautiful garden in East Nashville. So we kind of were like, well, who's our hero character that we could start the book series out with? Because we wanted to do multiple books. And so Addieant is like our sort of main character in this first one. And, you know, it's tough because you really kind of have to storyboard and you don't have the illustrations yet. So you have to just think like, okay, how many pages are in a average children's book for like 3 to 5 year olds? My son is, he just turned 4. So I kind of wanted to write a book that he could enjoy. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like, I guess the process of actually mapping out the story, even though it is, you know, for a younger audience, it was like a little bit of a challenge. And then we created this map of the garden, which was, I think, the most fun because there's so many like puns and things that adults will, I hope, find funny. Right. Like we have in one of the garden beds is the Creek Theater. And then we have like the Blueberry Note Jazz Club. And so we had a lot of like too much fun getting into all the puns with that one. But no, it's just been so amazing, the response. And like, I love children's books. Like, even though I have my son, I feel like I've always loved them, whether I was a parent or not. Yeah. And it's just so fun to like create something that's just complete imaginative fantasy that like kids can enjoy.
You mentioned that you've got new music that you're working on, which is great. We're all excited about that. But you also just recently put out an EP, I think last fall, The Bridge. And then in February of this year, you covered Billy Idol's Dancing with Myself. I was curious about what's your connection to that song? Like, of all the 80s songs you could cover, why that one?
I mean, I think obviously like we reimagined it because I didn't want to do like a carbon copy of what Billy had already created, which was like just this iconic song. Right. But I think I've always loved that song because it's really bittersweet and it's like, I don't know, there's like a tinge of sadness to it. And I think sort of reclaiming my independence, you know, dancing with myself, like it just felt like really apropos for the time. Right. And yeah, I don't know. It was like, how do we can't recreate this song. It's huge. So how do we do it in a way that feels fresh and also like pays tribute to the artist? And, you know, I got the seal of approval and Billy loved our cover of it. So
that's awesome. That's great.
Thank God.
Anything you can tell us about the new album before I let you go?
I mean, it's certainly incoming. I'm finishing up some stuff right now on the road, actually. But yeah, you're going to have new music very shortly. I will say that.
What style would it be in? What does it sound like?
I mean, I would say it's kind of veering more into a sort of dreamy pop realm. But, you know, I think lyrically the core of it is always going to be me. And I learned to write songs truly like in Nashville. So I don't think you can break that from me. Right. But yeah, it's a lot more like synthy, dreamy pop. But it's really fun and lots of like amazing like harmonies and stacks and just the things I love to do in the studio. But it's very honest work and it's sort of documenting my last year of life, which has been a lot. And yeah, I'm just so excited to finally have some new tunes out.
Well, we are looking forward to hearing it whenever it's ready and looking forward to seeing you at the Ritz in Raleigh on Saturday, August 10th. Maren Morris, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. We'll see you then. I can't wait.